Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're taking a look at something that might seem a little old school, the "to whom it may concern" letter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the age of LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and you can just directly email pretty much anybody.
Right.
You might be thinking, is that really relevant anymore? And honestly, you're not wrong to think that. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, there are still situations where this kind of letter can be super useful, especially if you're looking for a new job.
Yeah.
So to really dig into this, we're going to be taking a look at a really interesting article from the Rezoom blog. They go into a bunch of detail about all this.
Okay.
We'll uncover exactly when it makes sense to use "to whom it may concern," and even better, give you some actual advice on writing one that actually gets results.
Right.
So to tick things off, the article makes a really interesting point. It straight up says that "to whom it may concern" isn't totally obsolete.
Not at all. It's like thinking about where that phrase even came from is interesting. Because back in the day, you couldn't just, Google someone or look them up on LinkedIn.
Oh, for sure.
It was born out of necessity.
It's true. It really highlights how much things have changed.
Yeah.
The article even mentions that historically, using "to whom it may concern"
Mm-hmm.
was all about not knowing who would actually be reading it,
Right.
which is wild to think about now when we have so many ways to directly connect with people.
For sure.
So I guess the question is, are there times when not being super personal is actually the better way to go?
You know what? There are.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Sometimes you're not even really writing to like a specific person.
Yeah.
You're writing to a role or like a concept, like "Dear hiring manager,"
I see.
or "Dear universe, please give me this job."
Uh-huh. I like that last one.
Maybe not that last one, but you get the idea, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when does "to whom it may concern" actually make sense? What are those situations?
Well, the article points out a few key scenarios. Let's say you've got a company with this big multi-department review process for applications.
Okay.
Using a general salutation, it can actually be way more efficient than trying to hunt down every single person involved.
Yeah, that's true. You wouldn't want your application to end up in the wrong person's inbox because you addressed it to the wrong person.
Exactly. You don't want it to get lost because you are trying to be too specific.
Right.
And think about recommendation letters, too.
Okay.
Those often need to be flexible enough to go to a bunch of different potential employers,
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to make it super specific to one company and then limit its use for other places.
Makes sense. So it's kind of about finding that balance between being personal and being practical.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some other times when this type of letter could come in handy?
Well, imagine you're really interested in a company, but their website, it's like a maze. You can't find any clear contact info for hiring.
Okay.
Or maybe you're dealing with a company that's very traditional, has a really formal structure.
Yeah.
In those cases, "to whom it may concern" can be a safe bet.
That's a good point. You don't want to risk offending anyone by being too casual.
Right.
But the article also mentions there's some downsides to using it.
Of course, yeah.
It can be kind of like a double-edged sword,
Definitely. Especially these days when everybody really values personalization,
Right.
using "to whom it may concern," it can make you come across as a little lazy or even out of touch.
Oh, interesting. Why is that? Is it just because it's less personal?
I think it's a little more than that. When someone puts in the effort to actually find your name, address you directly,
Yeah.
it shows they care, it shows effort and a genuine interest,
Yeah.
Like the difference between a generic birthday card and a handwritten note,
Oh,
right?
totally. That personal touch can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So if we want to avoid using "to whom it may concern," what are some good alternatives?
Well, the article suggests "Dear hiring manager," if you know the job title but not the person's name,
Okay.
or "Dear department team," if you know which department handles hiring.
Gotcha. Those are good options.
Yeah.
But let's say you're in a situation where "to whom it makes concern" really is the only way to go.
Okay.
How do you actually write one of these letters that's effective?
Well, let's break it down.
Perfect. Because I think this is where people get stuck.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even start?
It all begins with the salutation, of course, "to whom it may concern," followed by a comma or colon. Just be consistent.
Right.
Then you have your introduction, which should be short and sweet.
Okay.
Who are you? Why are you writing? Do you have any connection to the company or the role?
I imagine being specific here is really important.
Oh, absolutely. This is your chance to make a killer first impression, even with a generic salutation.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, "I'm a hard worker," give them something concrete like, "I led a team of 5 in developing a new marketing campaign that increased website traffic by 20%.
Wow. Okay, that's a good example. So it's basically like any other cover letter,
Pretty much.
just with a different salutation at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what comes after the intro?
After that, you dive into the body paragraphs. This is where you really get to shine and expand on your skills and experience.
Okay.
And this is key. Don't just list your qualifications. Bring them to life with vivid examples and accomplishments.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They're just too generic.
Yeah, you got to stand out.
Okay, so how do you make it stand out?
Think storytelling. You want to grab their attention, make them want to know more about you.
Got it. So what about the conclusion? What are the key things to remember there?
In the conclusion, you'll want to quickly restate why you're writing and leave a clear call to action.
Okay.
Make sure your contact info is easy to find and end with a professional sign-off, like sincerely or best regards.
So it sounds like there's way more to writing a to whom it may concern letter than you might think.
Oh, for sure.
Are there any common mistakes that people should try to avoid?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the article highlights some big ones.
Like what?
Well, one of the most common ones is being too vague.
Okay.
If the reader has to wade through a bunch of fluff to figure out what you want, they're going to lose interest fast.
Yeah, that's fair. You want to get to the point.
Exactly. And just like with any professional communication, grammar and formatting are crucial.
Right.
Typos and inconsistencies, it just makes you look careless.
It's true. And of course, don't forget to include your contact information.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. You'd be surprised how many people make that mistake.
It happens more than you think. But even with a to whom it may concern letter, is there any way to add a personal touch?
You know what? There are ways.
Okay, I'm curious.
One of the best things you can do is research the company, like their values, their current projects,
Okay,
and then try to weave those into your letter.
I see. So even though you're not addressing a specific person, you're still tailoring your message to the company.
Exactly. It shows you've done your homework and you're genuinely interested.
Yeah, it shows you're not just sending out a generic letter to everyone.
Exactly. You're making a connection,
I like that.
even within the constraints of a more formal approach.
This is all really helpful. We've covered a lot of ground here. I'm
Uh,
ready to dive a little deeper into some specific examples, though.
Oh, for sure. The article actually provides some really good sample letters
Oh, awesome.
for different situations, like general inquiries and letters of recommendation.
Okay, I'm sure our listeners would love to see those in action.
Absolutely. But before we get into those, I want to mention something else the article talks about.
Okay, what's that?
It's not directly related to whom it may concern letters,
Okay.
but it's incredibly valuable advice for any job seeker out there.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
The article emphasizes just how important it is to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty much a must-have these days.
I agree. Your LinkedIn profile is often the first impression you make on potential employers.
It's true. It's like your digital resume, you know?
Right.
And it's not just about having one. It's about making sure it's optimized and really reflects your skills and experience accurately.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so it's not just about to whom it may concern letters. It's about having a well-rounded approach to your job search.
Exactly.
And speaking of a well-rounded approach, the article also talks about attending networking events.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're online or in person, they can open so many doors.
It's true. You never know who you'll meet or what opportunities might come up.
It's all about building those relationships.
Yeah.
And sometimes that personal connection can be the key to landing your dream job.
So it's clear that even though to whom it may concern letters might seem a bit old-fashioned,
Uh-huh.
they still have a place in today's world.
Absolutely. But as we've been talking about, it's all about knowing when and how to use them effectively.
Right.
And always remember, personalizing your communication is the best approach whenever possible. It shows you've taken the time and effort to really connect with the person you're trying to reach.
Exactly. I think that's a really important takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah, and another important point is to be strategic and thoughtful in your communication.
Go ahead.
Whether you're using a to whom it may concern letter or a personalized email,
Right.
make sure your message is clear, concise, and engaging.
Oh.
And most importantly, showcase your unique skills and experiences.
Great advice. We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. Before we move on, I want to remind our listeners that we have a bunch of additional resources in the show notes.
Definitely check those out. We've included links to everything we've talked about today.
Awesome. And stay tuned because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be taking a closer look at those sample to whom it may concern letters,
Yes.
along with some more career-boosting strategies.
We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of to whom it may concern letters. Before we took a little break,
Hmm?
we were talking about when this type of letter is actually appropriate and some of the potential downsides.
Right.
Now I think it's time to get practical
Yeah.
and look at some specific examples.
Sure.
The article we're looking at actually provides some great sample letters for different situations.
It does.
Like, for instance, there's one for a general inquiry,
Huh?
which can be super useful if you're just trying to, like, get your foot in the door at a company.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to that. You know,
Mhm.
you're really excited about a company,
Yeah.
but you're not sure who to contact or even what positions are available.
Right. Exactly.
And in those cases, a well-crafted "to whom it may concern" letter can really be your secret weapon.
Yeah.
The sample letter in the article, it really does a great job of highlighting your skills and experience
It does.
while still expressing your interest in the company.
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways from that sample letter?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is the emphasis on personalization,
Okay.
even with a generic salutation.
That's interesting.
The letter really encourages you to research the company's values and mission,
Okay.
and then tailor your message accordingly.
So even though you're not addressing a specific person,
Yeah,
you're still showing that you've done your homework
exactly.
and that you're genuinely interested in that specific company.
Yeah, that can make a big difference in how your letter is received.
For sure.
The sample letter also does a great job of highlighting your unique selling points, those skills and experiences that make you stand out from everyone else.
I think that's a huge point. It's easy to fall into the trap of just listing generic qualifications.
Yeah,
But what really grabs attention is showcasing what makes you special.
for sure, for sure.
And the article provides some really helpful tips on how to actually do that.
It does.
Like, for example, it suggests using action verbs and quantifiable results
Right.
to make your accomplishments more impactful. So instead of saying, "I'm a good communicator," you could say something like, "I developed a new communication strategy that increased customer engagement by 15%.
Yeah, perfect example.
You're showing, not just telling.
Exactly.
Now, the article also includes a sample letter for a recommendation,
Yes.
which is another common scenario where "to whom it may concern" might be appropriate,
Definitely.
which is really helpful because recommendation letters can be tricky to write,
Oh, they can be.
especially when you're not sure who's going to be reading it.
Exactly.
And this sample letter, it's structured in a way that makes it versatile enough to be used for a bunch of different purposes.
Right. It's not limited to just one specific situation.
And it focuses on highlighting the candidate's key strengths
Uh-huh.
and providing specific examples of their accomplishments.
It's a great resource for anyone who needs to write or request a recommendation.
For sure. What other gems did you find in the article?
You know what really stood out to me
Right.
was the section on resume optimization tools. The article mentions several online platforms
Okay.
that can help you tailor your resume to specific job descriptions and make it more what they call ATS friendly.
Which is so important, especially in today's competitive job market.
Extremely.
So for those who don't know, ATS stands for Applicant Tracking Systems.
Yeah,
And it's used by so many companies now to filter resumes.
pretty much all of them.
So it's essential to make sure yours is optimized to get through those systems.
Yeah, and these tools can help you identify keywords and phrases that are relevant to the jobs you're applying for,
Oh.
and then incorporate them strategically into your resume.
So it's not just about writing a great "to whom it may concern" letter.
Nope.
It's about having that well-rounded approach to your job search.
Yeah, having a strong resume and online presence, it's all connected.
Absolutely. And the article also emphasizes continually upgrading your skills.
Right.
And it even suggests some awesome online platforms where you can find courses and resources to stay ahead of the curve.
Oh, yeah, some great ones.
Which is so important in today's world. Things are changing so fast.
Right. The skills that are in demand today might be totally obsolete tomorrow.
It's true. So it's crucial to be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
You know, the article mentions one other thing that I found really interesting.
Oh, what's that?
The concept of informational interviews.
Oh, informational interviews. Those are gold.
Yeah, tell me more about those.
Well, they're a fantastic way to learn more about a particular industry, company, or role.
Okay.
You're basically having casual conversations with people who are already working in the field you're interested in.
So it's like getting that insider perspective.
Exactly, which can be so valuable when you're trying to figure out your career path.
Yeah, for sure.
And the article gives some excellent tips on how to actually set up and conduct these informational interviews effectively.
Like what?
Well, for example, it really stresses the importance of preparing thoughtful questions
Okay.
and being respectful of the person's time.
Of course.
You know, it's all about making a good impression.
Makes sense. Informational interviews can be a fantastic way to expand your network
Yeah,
and gain valuable insights,
for sure.
but it's important to approach them professionally.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the history of to whom it may concern letters
Uh-huh.
to Rezoom optimization tools and informational interviews.
It's been a whirlwind.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on a topic that's closely related to our discussion:
Okay.
the importance of personal branding.
Personal branding, that's a big one.
It is. So for our listeners, what is personal branding?
It's all about showcasing your unique value proposition to the world.
Okay.
It's about defining who you are, what you stand for, and what makes you different.
Why is that so important in the context of a job search?
Well, think about it. When you apply for a job, you're basically marketing yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to convince the employer that you're the best person for that position. And just like any good marketing campaign, you need a strong brand identity.
Makes sense.
So how do you actually build that strong personal brand?
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, it starts with self-reflection.
Okay.
You need to take some time to really think about your strengths, your values, your passions.
Got it.
And then you need to find ways to communicate those authentically
Okay.
through your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
even your online presence in general.
So it's like crafting a story about yourself.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
story that highlights your unique skills and experiences and makes you stand out from everyone else.
Exactly. And just like any good story, your personal brand needs to be consistent across all channels.
Okay.
So that means making sure your messaging is aligned and your online presence reflects the professional image you want to project.
That's a great point.
Okay.
Speaking of online presence, I'm curious about your thoughts on the role of social media in a job search.
Oh, social media can be huge,
It can.
but you have to use it strategically. Your online presence can either help or hurt your chances of landing a job.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to be mindful of what you're sharing and how you're presenting yourself online.
So it's not just about having a LinkedIn profile.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about managing your overall online reputation.
Exactly. Potential employers, they're going to Google you before they even invite you for an interview.
Oh, 100%.
So you want to make sure your online presence is professional
Yeah.
and consistent with the image you want to project.
That's such important advice. In today's digital age, our online footprint can really impact our careers.
It can.
You know, it seems like we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But I'm curious, to wrap up this to whom it may concern dilemma,
Yeah.
what are your final thoughts?
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Okay.
Sometimes a personalized approach is best,
Yeah.
and other times a more formal approach, like to whom it may concern, might be more appropriate.
Makes sense.
The key is to be adaptable and understand the nuances of each situation.
I love that. It's about being strategic and thoughtful in your communication no matter what.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I just want to remind our listeners to check out the show notes for links to all the resources we've mentioned,
Yes.
including those resume optimization tools, networking tips, and salary negotiation guides.
So much good stuff in there.
And stay tuned, because in the final part of our deep dive,
Yes.
we'll be exploring some even more advanced strategies for job searching success. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive on to whom it may concern, letters, and really the modern job search as a whole.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has. We've covered so much, from writing a really solid to whom it may concern letter to things like personal branding and that all-important online presence.
Right.
But now, I think it's time to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and look at some of those more advanced strategies that can really give you a leg up in your job search.
Sounds good.
So one strategy that I think often gets overlooked
Yeah.
is the power of following up.
Oh, huge.
I know, right?
It's so important.
It's easy for applications to get lost, especially these days when everything moves so fast.
Sure. You're competing with so many other people.
Exactly. So a well-timed follow-up email, it can really make you stand out and show that you're truly interested.
Absolutely. It shows initiative.
But I think a lot of people are hesitant to follow up
Yeah.
because they don't want to seem pushy.
Right. You don't want to annoy anyone.
Exactly. So how do you strike that balance, you know?
Well, I think a thoughtful follow-up, if it's done right, it can actually be seen as a sign of professionalism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It shows you're serious.
Okay, so what are your tips for writing an effective follow-up email?
Well, first and foremost, make sure it's personalized
Okay.
and directly relevant to that specific position you applied for.
Okay, so tailor it.
Yes. Remind them of your key qualifications and reiterate your excitement for the opportunity.
Makes sense.
You can even use the follow-up to share any new information that might be relevant, like a recent accomplishment or maybe a link to a portfolio piece.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it keeps the conversation going.
So what about the timing of the follow-up? When's the best time to reach out?
It really depends on the company and their specific hiring process.
Okay.
But a good rule of thumb is to follow up within a week or two after you submit your application.
Okay.
If you haven't heard back after that initial follow-up, you can try again after another week or two.
Okay, so be persistent but respectful.
Yeah, exactly. Don't overwhelm them with emails.
Right, of course. So let's move on to another advanced strategy. Negotiating your salary and benefits.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
It can be a little daunting, to be honest,
It can be, for sure.
but it's such an important part of the process.
It is. It's about knowing your worth and advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about being greedy. It's about making sure you're being compensated fairly for your skills and experience.
So where do you even start with salary negotiations?
Research. That's the first step.
Okay.
Before you even think about negotiating, you need to know what the industry standards are for your role and your level of experience.
So do your homework.
Exactly. Websites like Glassdoor and Salary.com, they can be super helpful for that.
Okay, that's good to know. So you go in armed with information.
Yes. Be confident, be assertive,
Okay.
but also be respectful and professional.
Right, it's a balance.
Yeah, remember, negotiation is a two-way street.
Yeah.
You're not just trying to get the best deal for yourself.
Yeah.
You're also trying to build a good working relationship with your potential employer.
That's a good point. It's not just about the money.
Exactly.
It's about building a foundation for a successful partnership.
Right.
All right, before we officially wrap up our deep dive, I want to touch on one final strategy.
Okay.
Seeking out mentors and building a strong professional network.
Oh, mentorship and networking, that's crucial.
It is. A mentor can provide so much guidance, support, and insights.
Yeah, they've been there, they've done that.
Exactly. But how do you even find a mentor? It can feel a little intimidating to just reach out to someone you admire.
You know what? It doesn't have to be.
Okay, what's your advice?
Start by identifying people in your field whose work you really admire,
Okay,
and then just reach out. Express your interest in learning more about their career path.
I see.
You can also connect with people through professional organizations, networking events, online platforms like LinkedIn.
Those are all great suggestions. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to remember that building a professional network isn't just about finding that one perfect mentor.
Yo, not at all.
It's about connecting with people who can offer different perspectives, advice, and support throughout your entire career.
It's about building relationships.
Absolutely. So here we are at the end of our deep dive into To Whom It May Concern letters and really navigating the job search in today's world.
It's been a lot.
It has. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
You know, the job search can be tough. It can be discouraging at times.
It can be.
But remember, you have the power to create your own path.
Okay.
By being proactive, strategic, and persistent, you can absolutely increase your chances of landing that dream job.
That's great advice.
And never underestimate the power of those personal connections, whether it's through mentorship, networking, or just reaching out to someone for advice.
Couldn't agree more. Even though the world of work is always changing,
Oh yeah, it's constantly evolving.
the fundamentals of good communication, a strong work ethic, and genuine human connection, those will always be valuable.
Absolutely. Oh, and don't forget to check out the show notes for all those resources we mentioned.
Yes, so many great links in there. We hope you found this deep dive helpful. Thanks for joining us, and best of luck on your job search.
We'll see you next time.